Silence is not weakness. Silence is not surrender. Silence is often the loudest language of wisdom, strength, and faith. In a world that constantly demands noise, opinions, and reactions, silence becomes a sacred power that very few understand. When you remain silent, you allow God to fight battles you were never meant to fight with words. Silence gives space for truth to rise, for clarity to settle, and for divine direction to speak. Many mistakes are born from rushed words, but many miracles are born from patient silence. Silence protects your peace. Not every insult deserves a response. Not every misunderstanding needs an explanation. Sometimes your calm silence exposes lies better than 1,000 arguments. When you stop reacting emotionally, you start responding spiritually. Silence also builds inner strength. In quiet moments, you discover who you truly are and who God is shaping you to become. While others speak out of fear, silence allows faith to grow. While others argue, silence allows wisdom to lead. Jesus remained silent before his accusers, not because he had nothing to say, but because his silence carried authority. In that silence, prophecy was fulfilled and purpose was protected. In the same way, your silence today may be preparing your victory tomorrow. When you choose silence, you are choosing self-control over chaos, faith over fear, and wisdom over pride. Silence can calm storms, heal hearts, and change destinies. Sometimes the greatest transformation begins not with words, but with silence. Silence is often misunderstood in a world that values loud voices, quick opinions, and constant reactions. Many people assume that the one who speaks the most is the strongest, but true wisdom reveals itself through restraint. Choosing silence requires far more strength than reacting impulsively. It shows mastery over emotions, discipline over ego, and awareness over impulse. A wise person understands that words carry power, and once spoken, they cannot be taken back. Silence gives time to think, to observe, and to discern the right moment to speak, if speaking is even necessary. It allows space for understanding rather than misunderstanding, and reflection rather than regret. Wisdom knows that not every truth needs to be spoken immediately, and not every provocation deserves an answer. Silence also demonstrates confidence. Those who are secure in themselves do not feel pressured to explain, defend, or prove anything to everyone. They know their value does not depend on constant validation. Silence becomes a shield that protects dignity and self-respect, preventing unnecessary conflicts and preserving inner peace. In many situations, silence speaks louder than words. It can reveal maturity in the face of immaturity, calm in the presence of chaos, and intelligence in moments of confusion. When others react emotionally, silence stands as evidence of thoughtful control. This kind of silence is not passive. It is intentional, powerful, and deeply rooted in wisdom. True wisdom recognizes that strength is not always shown through confrontation. Sometimes strength is shown by walking away, by listening more than speaking, and by allowing actions to speak in place of words. Silence, when chosen with purpose, becomes a mark of understanding, patience, and insight. Silence creates space for God's intervention in situations where human words and reactions would only complicate matters. When you choose silence, you acknowledge that not every battle is meant to be fought with explanations, arguments, or self-defense. Some struggles require trust rather than talking, surrender rather than resistance. Silence becomes an act of faith, showing that you believe God sees what you cannot and understands what you cannot explain. When you remain silent, you step back from the need to control outcomes. This surrender allows divine wisdom to move freely, unblocked by fear, pride, or emotional responses. Many conflicts grow worse because people speak from hurt, anger, or desperation. Silence interrupts that cycle, preventing damage and allowing God's justice to unfold in His time and in His way. Silence also protects you from spiritual exhaustion. Constantly defending yourself drains energy that could be used for growth, healing, and prayer. By choosing silence, you place your trust in God's power rather than your own ability to convince others. You stop striving for approval and start resting in divine assurance, knowing that truth does not need loud defense to prevail. Throughout spiritual history, victory often came not through argument, but through obedience and stillness. When you allow God to fight for you, situations shift without you having to explain yourself. Accusations lose strength, opposition weakens, and clarity emerges. Silence becomes a weapon of trust, a declaration that you believe God's hand is stronger than human words, and His timing more accurate than immediate reaction. There is a powerful discipline in understanding that silence is sometimes the most appropriate response. Many situations arise with the intention of provoking emotion, pulling you into unnecessary conflict, or distracting you from your purpose. Responding to everything gives others control over your peace and your time. Wisdom lies in recognizing which moments deserve your voice and which moments deserve your restraint. Not every comment is seeking truth. Some are seeking reaction. Not every question is genuine. Some are meant to confuse, criticize, or manipulate. When you respond to such situations, you often give energy to negativity and validate behavior that thrives on attention. Silence removes that fuel, causing unnecessary noise to fade on its own. Choosing not to respond is not avoidance. It is discernment. It shows emotional maturity and spiritual awareness. Silence allows you to observe patterns, intentions, and outcomes without being emotionally entangled. By stepping back, you gain clarity and prevent yourself from making decisions driven by anger, fear, or pride. Silence also protects relationships. Harsh words spoken in the heat of the moment can create wounds that last longer than the conflict itself. When emotions are high, silence gives time for calm to return and understanding to grow. It creates space for wisdom to guide the next step rather than regret shaping the outcome. In many cases, the most powerful message you can send is that your peace is not negotiable. By refusing to respond to provocation, disrespect, or unnecessary drama, you communicate boundaries without confrontation. Silence becomes a deliberate choice that preserves dignity, clarity, and inner stability. Inner peace is fragile when it is constantly exposed to noise, conflict, and emotional chaos. Silence acts as a protective barrier, shielding your mind and heart from unnecessary disturbance. When you choose silence, you are choosing to guard your emotional and spiritual well-being rather than allowing external situations to dictate your inner state. Many people lose their peace not because of the situation itself, but because of how much they engage with it. Arguments, criticism, gossip, and negativity gain power only when they are entertained. Silence withdraws your energy from these disturbances, preventing them from taking root within you. It allows your thoughts to settle and your emotions to stabilize. Silence also creates mental clarity. When the mind is free from constant verbal reactions, it becomes easier to process emotions, recognize truth, and make wise decisions. Inner peace grows in environments of calm, not in constant debate or defense. By remaining silent, you give yourself permission to breathe, reflect, and regain balance. Protecting your peace means understanding that you are not obligated to absorb every opinion or respond to every demand. Silence becomes a form of self-respect, a statement that your emotional health matters. It teaches you to prioritize calm over chaos and alignment over approval. In quiet moments, inner peace strengthens. Silence allows you to detach from stress and reconnect with stability, patience, and self-awareness. It keeps your spirit grounded even when circumstances are turbulent, allowing you to remain centered rather than scattered. Hasty words are usually born from heightened emotions rather than thoughtful understanding. When anger, frustration, fear, or pride take control, the mind reacts faster than wisdom can guide it. In those moments, words are released without considering their impact, their permanence, or the damage they may cause. Silence, by contrast, slows the moment and creates space for clarity to enter. Once spoken, words cannot be retrieved even when followed by apologies. Their effect often lingers in the hearts and minds of others. Hasty speech can break trust, strain relationships, and create misunderstandings that take long periods to repair. Silence offers protection from these consequences by preventing emotional reactions from becoming permanent statements. Speaking too quickly often leads to miscommunication. When thoughts are not fully formed, words may come out incomplete or distorted, leading others to interpret meanings that were never intended. Silence allows time to process emotions, organize thoughts, and choose language that reflects truth rather than an impulse. Silence also helps prevent self-sabotage. Many opportunities are lost and many conflicts are intensified because of words spoken in the heat of the moment. By choosing silence, you give yourself the chance to respond wisely instead of reacting emotionally. This pause can be the difference between growth and regret. Practicing restraint in speech builds maturity and self-control. It demonstrates an understanding that not every feeling needs immediate expression. Silence becomes a safeguard, ensuring that when words are finally spoken, they carry intention, wisdom, and purpose rather than remorse. Truth does not always need loud defense to be revealed. In many situations, arguing only clouds reality and strengthens deception. Silence removes the noise that lies depend on. When you stop explaining, justifying, or defending yourself, the truth is given space to stand on its own. Over time, consistency, actions, and character speak more clearly than words ever could. Arguments often shift focus away from truth and toward ego. When people argue, the goal becomes winning rather than understanding. Silence refuses to participate in that struggle. It allows false narratives to collapse under their own weight because there is no resistance feeding them. Lies require engagement to survive, but silence starves them of attention. Silence also reveals intentions. When you do not react, people often expose their true motives through continued behavior and speech. Without your participation, patterns become visible and reality becomes harder to hide. In this way, silence becomes a mirror reflecting truth back to those who are watching. By choosing silence, you protect the integrity of truth. You allow facts time and consistency to do the work that arguments cannot. Silence demonstrates confidence in what is real, showing that truth does not panic, rush, or shout. It remains steady, patient, and unshaken. Silence also shifts the burden of proof. Instead of exhausting yourself trying to convince others, you allow reality to speak for itself. This approach preserves your energy and dignity while allowing truth to surface naturally through outcomes rather than confrontation. Clarity rarely comes in chaos. When life is filled with constant noise, opinions, and emotional reactions, the mind struggles to see clearly. Quiet moments create the mental and spiritual space needed to understand situations as they truly are. In silence, distractions fade, allowing thoughts to settle and priorities to come into focus. Silence allows reflection. It gives you the opportunity to review experiences, recognize patterns, and learn from past choices. Without the pressure to react immediately, you can evaluate what truly matters and what does not. This reflection leads to better judgment and more intentional decisions. Direction is often lost when every voice is given equal weight. Silence reduces outside influence, making it easier to listen to inner conviction and wisdom. When external noise is minimized, you become more aware of your values, goals, and purpose. This awareness helps guide actions with confidence rather than confusion. Quiet moments also sharpen awareness. You notice details that are overlooked in constant activity, emotions, motives, and subtle shifts in circumstances. This heightened awareness leads to clearer understanding and more accurate responses. Silence becomes a tool for insight rather than indecision. In stillness, confusion begins to dissolve. What once felt overwhelming becomes manageable. Silence creates order in the mind, helping you move forward with intention instead of uncertainty, and with understanding instead of impulse. Self-control is developed through restraint, and silence is one of its most powerful forms. When emotions rise, the natural impulse is to speak, react, or defend. Choosing silence in those moments requires discipline, awareness, and inner strength. It is the ability to pause instead of acting on impulse, to remain composed rather than emotionally driven. Silence trains the mind to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting automatically. Each time you resist the urge to speak unnecessarily, you strengthen your ability to manage emotions and maintain balance. This practice builds emotional intelligence, helping you stay steady even in situations designed to provoke or destabilize you. Through silence, you learn to observe emotions without being controlled by them. Anger, frustration, or fear may still arise, but silence prevents those feelings from dictating behavior. This separation between emotion and action is a sign of maturity and growth. It allows you to choose responses that align with your values rather than temporary feelings. Silence also reduces regret. Many moments of loss or conflict are caused by a lack of self-control in speech. By remaining silent, you protect yourself from saying things that could damage relationships, reputation, or self-respect. Silence becomes a safeguard that preserves integrity and composure. As self-control strengthens, confidence grows. You begin to trust your ability to remain calm under pressure. Silence reinforces inner authority, proving that you are in command of your reactions rather than being controlled by external circumstances. Faith requires stillness to deepen. Constant noise, opinions, fears, distractions, and doubts crowds the heart and weakens spiritual focus. Silence removes these interruptions and creates room for trust to develop. In quiet moments, faith is no longer competing with chaos. It is given space to take root and grow stronger. Silence shifts attention inward and upward. Without the pressure of external voices, the heart becomes more receptive to belief rather than anxiety. Faith thrives when the mind is calm enough to reflect, to trust, and to surrender outcomes beyond personal control. Noise fuels uncertainty, but silence nurtures confidence in what cannot be seen yet believed. In silence, patience is developed. Faith often requires waiting, and waiting is difficult in a world that demands instant answers. Silence teaches endurance, allowing belief to remain steady even when results are delayed. It strengthens the ability to trust the process rather than rushing for immediate reassurance. Silence also protects faith from doubt. When surrounded by constant negativity or conflicting opinions, belief can waver. Quiet moments allow you to step away from discouraging influences and reconnect with conviction. Faith becomes personal, grounded, and resilient rather than reactive. Through silence, trust deepens. It becomes less about seeking constant confirmation and more about resting in assurance. Silence cultivates a calm confidence that remains firm even when circumstances are uncertain. Many conflicts begin not because the issue is serious, but because words are spoken without restraint. A single sentence, delivered at the wrong moment or in the wrong tone, can turn a small misunderstanding into a lasting dispute. Silence interrupts this escalation by removing the spark that fuels unnecessary arguments. When emotions are heightened, conversations often lose their purpose. People speak to defend, accuse, or dominate rather than to understand. Silence prevents you from being drawn into exchanges that lead nowhere. By not responding immediately, you allow emotions to cool and logic to return, reducing the chance of saying something that worsens the situation. Silence also denies conflict the attention it seeks. Many disagreements thrive on reaction. When there is no response, tension often dissolves on its own. Silence communicates that you are not willing to engage in drama, hostility, or unproductive debate. This refusal can diffuse situations before they grow into deeper problems. Choosing silence demonstrates maturity and restraint. It shows that you value peace over proving a point and understanding over winning an argument. This approach can shift the dynamic of an interaction, encouraging others to reflect on their own behavior. By remaining silent when confrontation is unnecessary, you preserve relationships and emotional energy. Silence becomes a tool for peacekeeping, allowing harmony to remain intact and preventing small issues from turning into lasting division. Spiritual power does not always announce itself with noise or force. Often it is revealed in stillness, patience, and quiet confidence. Silence creates an environment where spiritual strength can develop without interference from pride, fear, or distraction. In quietness, the spirit becomes more aware, more focused, and more grounded. When external noise is reduced, inner awareness increases. Silence allows deeper connection with spiritual truths that are easily overlooked in constant activity. It sharpens sensitivity to guidance, conviction, and understanding. This quiet attentiveness strengthens spiritual discernment, helping you recognize what aligns with truth and what does not. Quietness also builds endurance. Spiritual strength is not only about action, but about the ability to remain steady during uncertainty. Silence teaches perseverance without complaint and trust without constant reassurance. It strengthens the inner foundation, making faith resilient rather than reactive. In silence, humility grows. Quietness shifts focus away from self and toward higher purpose. It removes the need for recognition and validation, allowing spiritual growth to happen privately and authentically. This humility becomes a source of strength rather than weakness. Spiritual power formed in quietness is stable and lasting. It does not depend on circumstances or approval. It remains firm in adversity, calm in pressure, and confident without needing to be loud or visible. Silence, when rooted in truth and purpose, carries authority that words often cannot match. Jesus demonstrated this through his restraint in moments when speaking could have defended him, justified him, or silenced his accusers. His silence was not submission to injustice, but mastery over the situation. It showed complete confidence in truth, purpose, and divine timing. By remaining silent before false accusations, Jesus revealed that authority does not come from argument but from identity. He did not need to prove who he was because his life, actions, and mission already testified to the truth. Silence became a statement of certainty, showing that truth does not panic or rush to defend itself. His silence also exposed the emptiness of false claims. When no argument was offered in return, the accusations lost their power and credibility. The lack of response forced others to confront their own motives and actions. In this way, silence acted as a mirror, reflecting injustice without engaging in it. Silence allowed purpose to remain intact. Speaking in those moments could have shifted focus away from the greater mission. By choosing restraint, Jesus protected what was meant to be fulfilled. His authority was shown not through dominance of words, but through control, obedience, and unwavering resolve. This kind of silence teaches that true authority is calm, deliberate, and grounded. It stands firm without explanation, confident that truth and purpose will ultimately prevail. Silence is often a season of preparation rather than inactivity. While nothing seems to be happening outwardly, important work is taking place internally. In these quiet periods, strength is built, understanding is refined, and character is shaped. Silence removes distractions so focus can shift toward growth and readiness. When you remain silent, you learn patience. Victory often requires endurance, and silence trains you to wait without frustration. It develops the ability to trust the process even when progress is not visible. This patience becomes essential when facing greater responsibilities and challenges in the future. Silence also sharpens discernment. Without constant reaction or explanation, you gain insight into people, situations, and timing. You begin to recognize what deserves your energy and what does not. This awareness equips you to make wiser decisions when opportunities or challenges arise. Quiet seasons allow healing to take place. Past disappointments, failures, and wounds are processed rather than ignored. Silence gives space for reflection and restoration, ensuring that unresolved emotions do not sabotage future success. Healing strengthens resilience and confidence. By embracing silence, you build inner stability. Victory is sustained not by momentary excitement, but by a strong foundation. Silence strengthens that foundation, preparing you to step forward with clarity, composure, and readiness. When the moment for action arrives, emotional reactions often arise suddenly and demand immediate expression. In moments of anger, frustration, or hurt, the urge to speak or act can feel overwhelming. Calm silence creates a pause between emotion and response, preventing feelings from taking control of behavior. This pause is where wisdom begins to replace impulse. When emotions are intense, words spoken are rarely accurate reflections of truth. They are shaped by temporary feelings rather than clear understanding. Silence allows those emotions to settle, giving the mind time to regain balance. As emotions calm, perspective returns, making it possible to see situations more clearly. Calm silence also protects relationships. Emotional reactions often leave lasting damage because they strike at moments of vulnerability. By choosing silence, you prevent the release of words that could cause deep hurt or misunderstanding. Silence becomes a form of care, both for yourself and for others. Remaining silent during emotional moments requires strength and awareness. It shows that you are not controlled by circumstances or feelings, but guided by intention and self-respect. This calm presence can also influence others, reducing tension and encouraging a more thoughtful exchange. Through calm silence, emotional stability grows. You become less reactive and more grounded, able to face difficult situations with composure rather than chaos. Silence transforms emotional energy into control and clarity, allowing balance to replace turmoil. Silence has the ability to influence deeply without force or persuasion. When words are withheld, people are often compelled to reflect rather than react. Silence creates space for thought, allowing hearts and minds to process what words might only harden. In this stillness, understanding can emerge naturally instead of being pushed. Hearts are often changed not by argument but by example. Silence demonstrates patience, humility, and self-control, qualities that speak louder than speeches. When others witness calm restraint in the face of pressure or injustice, it can challenge their assumptions and soften resistance. Silence communicates integrity without confrontation. Silence also has the power to shift perspectives. Without verbal conflict, situations unfold more honestly. People begin to notice actions, consistency, and character. This quiet observation can lead to re-evaluation, opening minds that were once close to truth or understanding. Destinies are influenced in quiet decisions made in silence. The choice not to speak at the wrong time, not to react emotionally, or not to engage in unnecessary conflict can redirect the course of relationships, opportunities, and personal growth. Silence preserves paths that reckless words might destroy. Through silence, long-term outcomes are shaped. It allows wisdom to guide choices and patience to determine timing. In this way, silence becomes a quiet force capable of influencing lives in ways that words alone never could. Silence is not the absence of power. It is the presence of wisdom, faith, and control working together. When chosen intentionally, silence becomes a strength that protects peace, reveals truth, deepens faith, and prepares the heart for greater purpose. In learning when to speak and when to remain silent, we gain mastery over our emotions, clarity in our direction, and confidence in our journey. Silence does not mean nothing is happening. It means something greater is unfolding beyond words.